St. John the Baptist and his inspiration, the prophet Isaiah, want us to prepare for the Lord Jesus. And while this is a serious responsibility, I want to set up my explanation with a joke about our teaching parish seminarian, Sean. Sean is one of our servers. He's got glasses and a beard. And so Sean is with us, as all seminarians have something like an internship. He's with us to receive what we call formation. Sean, like all seminarians, need lots of formation. Not only the formal theological formation they receive in the classroom, but also informal, what we call human formation in an internship, and just kind of learning how to be a civilized adult, right? So to help accomplish this, Sean, it may be misguided, but to help accomplish this, Sean visits with Father Erickson and I about once a month, and with all of us, really. But when he visits, he stays, of course, at the rectory in our guest room. And so before a visit, I spend some time preparing for his visit by cleaning the rectory, including, of course, the bathroom. Last month, before Sean's visit, I placed a brand new box of Kleenex tissues in the bathroom for Sean to use. After his visit, a day or two later, I went into that bathroom to get a Kleenex, and I didn't see the box. I didn't see this brand new box of Kleenex. So, I didn't think he had stolen it, but I wanted to know what had happened to it. So I gave him a call, and he said, "Oh, Father Lynch, I'm sorry. I must have brought them into the guest room with me and just left them there. Sorry about that." And I said, "Oh, that's no problem, Sean. I'm sure I will find the Kleenex in the guest room." And so, problem solved. I was about to say goodbye and hang up when Sean asked, "Father, did I at least put your toothbrush back where I found it?" Unfortunately, he had. So, as my joke exemplifies, we spend time preparing for the arrival of guests. We vacuum carpets, we sweep floors, we scrub counters, sinks, and showers. This time of year, as is rather evident today, we might even need a shovel to clear the sidewalk and the steps leading to our door. With Christmas coming, when we celebrate the coming of Jesus in history, we will prepare not only by cleaning, but by decorating. When we attend Mass for Christmas and other Christmas concerts, parties, and pageants, we might get dressed up in one of our more festive outfits. These, though sort of nice, are relatively superficial preparations concerned with appearances. Our more significant preparations for the celebration of the coming of Jesus will be deeper, more interior preparations. This certainly ought to include prayer. Perhaps especially relevant would be a prayerful reading of the first few chapters of both Luke and Matthew's Gospels that speak of the infancy of Jesus. And of course, praying the joyful mysteries of the Rosary. We may also take in some religious Christmas stories, and they don't have to be sort of honorously theological. Even just beautiful stories like Charlie Brown Christmas or The Little Drummer Boy and Paul Harvey's telling of The Man and the Birds. And if you haven't heard that before, I encourage you to seek that out, The Man and the Birds by Paul Harvey. These are more interior preparations. However, if we want to be sufficiently prepared for the coming of Jesus, especially the other two comings of Jesus. We're very, I think, conscious of our celebration of the coming of Jesus in history at Christmas when he's born, but we also in Advent recognize that he comes at the end of time as our judge, and then by extension, sort of, when we die, he comes to us as our judge, but also comes to us sacramentally in Holy Communion. And if we're going to be sufficiently prepared for the coming of Jesus in these other two ways, we absolutely need both baptism and confession. Now, clearly, most of us have been baptized, but some may have not, and it is to the unbaptized that I just want to address the next few sentences. If you are not baptized, please contact me. You need to be baptized. You may have heard that you don't. Some people may have led you to believe that you don't. That is not true. You need to be baptized, and I can help you. It's my responsibility to help you with that. So please contact me. I can help you, but there are practical considerations that make this issue not only important, but urgent. They need to be done in a timely fashion. It requires time, and so if you're not yet baptized, please contact me, Father Brian Lynch, today. For the rest of us, confession is more relevant because confession is the means that Jesus established for forgiving our mortal sins, in particular our mortal sins after baptism. It's fairly evident that people have differing opinions over what qualifies as a mortal sin. I urge you to not trust popular culture in this matter. Do not trust popular culture about what and what does not qualify as mortal sin. While the primary purpose of confession is the forgiveness of sins, a secondary purpose is forming our consciences properly, right? We could certainly spend time reading the catechism and other authoritative documents from the church. That, for many of us, would be intimidating, I suspect. So a real practical way, and one of the reasons I encourage people to have regular monthly confession, is that this is a place where we can come to know and understand how the church regards sin. If we are sincerely working on our relationship with Jesus, desiring to become better friends and better disciples, we will want to know how seriously or grave the church regards particular sins, and the priest confessor can help us with this. He can help us to identify which sins are serious, grave, or mortal, and which ones are less so. And it is, of course, these grave, serious sins that we must confess. We must confess these in number and kind, is the traditional language. Number and kind. The kind of sin and the number of times it's been committed, right? And so examples of objectively grave matter that might surprise many of us because we live in this culture, objectively grave matter with the potential of being mortal sin include solitary sexual actions and skipping Mass on Sunday. And the culture would lead us to believe that these are trivial, but in fact the church teaches that these are grave matter. So these, of course, in all mortal sins should be confessed and forgiven by means of confession before receiving Holy Communion, right? Before receiving Holy Communion, we are expected to confess our mortal sins because to receive communion in the state of mortal sin is itself a mortal sin called sacrilege. So this, I recognize, is extremely inconvenient. This is extremely inconvenient. If Holy Communion was only something that reminded us of Jesus, if that's all Holy Communion was, a reminder of Jesus, as some Christians wrongly believe, at least in the sense that for the Catholic Church, for our communion, it is not just a reminder, then I suspect confession would not be necessary. And maybe that explains some of the thinking that people have. But Holy Communion is not just a reminder of Jesus. Holy Communion is Jesus. Holy Communion is Jesus. So we must prepare, even more than all that scrubbing of bathrooms and vacuuming of floors that we do when Sean and other distinguished guests come to visit with us. We need to be prepared for Jesus coming to us in Holy Communion, and we do that by means of confessing our mortal sins before we receive him. May his coming to us in today's holy sacrifice of the Mass help and inspire us to prepare well.